be neat for everybody, you know, for a rig tuning seminar by our infamous Doug Thome. I think Doug Thome has been on the winning race boat for how many years? He lost count.
Well,
he lost count.
It's 12-time past national champion. But
right, exactly.
A lot of years.
So I think he knows what he's talking about, and there's probably a lot he's not going to tell us.
that is not true. I'll tell you anything you want to know. I'll tell you.
I'm kidding, of course. Right.
You said Win Story was the #1 guy.
But anyway,
I'll tell you about that too.
But he and Chambers did one for George and I went down to Gone with the Wind out there, and that was really if nobody's been to the Gone with the Wind regatta, you still doing them?
Yep, it's coming back.
All right, they were really terrific. And anyway, one of them, it's probably 2017, 2016. Anyway, Doug and Chambers gave us a nice tuning seminar, and that was really enlightening. It was really good. I learned a lot, quite frankly. And so anyway, needless to say, Doug Thome.
It's good to see everybody here. I'm glad y'all made it. A couple of housekeeping things before we get started. So, Justin and I gave our first little talk, I guess, back in 2007 after our first national win. People, were interested in what we were doing, and we were relatively new to the boat, but had hooked up with Joe Waters with Water Sales and made a commitment to him that we would stay with Water Sales and try and elevate the performance of those sales. And checking most of you in, you guys have come around. We found that we can make those sales perform in pretty much any condition. But everybody starts with, okay, how do you tune the boat? And we set it up the same way every race. We put 10 on the loose gauge on the forestay. Tighten your backstay until you get a reading of 10 on the loose gauge on your forestay. The V gauge, the short one. That's just, we could have picked any number, but you use the same number just as a starting point. And then we put 25 on the outers, 15 on the forwards, and then between 4 and to the edge of the gauge on the afters. And that's our standard setup, 6 to 8 knots of breeze. And then every knot, 2 knots of breeze, we'll put a full turn on everything. We believe in keeping it as simple as possible. Put 2 on this and 1 on that. I can't keep track of it. So we just put 1 full turn on for every 2 knots of breeze. So by the time you're up to 15 knots of breeze, you should have about 6 turns on, give or take. I mean, it's not a science. The important thing is, as the wind comes up, start cranking, put turns on. For every 2 knots of breeze, put a full turn on. And if you're starting to feel any weather helm, shorten your forestay. Sometimes it will be 3/4 of an inch short if it's blowing 15 plus. And of course, the rules state you can't change your settings during a race. You can only make your changes between races. But that's the standard setup that we start with. And of course, then you start throwing in all the variables. What are the wave conditions? What are the true wind conditions? I mean, it may be blowing an average of 10, but is it a steady 10, or is it 10 puffs and 5? The next big question a lot of people have is, when do you go to the jib? And we found that at 15 is when you start really thinking about going to the jib, depending on the water. If it's flat water, we might hold the Genoa a little longer. Of course, typically we sail with 3 people. That has changed. I would say when we started in 2007, most people were sailing with 2 people. And that has changed over the years, that most people now are sailing 3 people. And if you've got 3 good-sized people, we weigh in at probably 660 maybe, all up weight with our crew. Now that we're racing with Keith, that's a little lighter. He doesn't quite have Mr. Story's weight behind him. But at around 600, that's what we race with. And we found that we competitive at 5 knots. Of course, Mr. Story would go down below and sit below, which helps. But as the wind picks up, that added weight makes a huge difference in keeping the boat flat. Because I would say that's the #1 thing we see when we're looking at other boats on, we're saying, okay, we're pointing higher. We're not really pointing higher. We're flatter and we're tracking where somebody below us is heeled and sliding because their keel isn't as efficient because they aren't as flat. It is so critical to keep this boat flat to get the maximum effect of the keel. So, think about your crew weight for the conditions, because it makes a huge difference once you start getting up over 8 knots.
How much, if you're sailing heavy and you got light air, how much does that affect you?
Like I said,
As much or less, or?
If your crew, here's the caveat, if your crew is willing to go below when it's 85 degrees and sit low on the keel or on one of the bunks, it doesn't affect you that much. It really doesn't. I mean, we have a portable fan for Mr. Story. Mr. Story, he raced with us up till about 2 years ago. He's 84, and we'd give him a portable fan. He'd get down there, because the other critical aspect of it is you need a mix master. I mean, and he is the master on mixing cocktails.
So you admit that there is a cooler on board.
There's more than a cooler. If you look at any of the boats we have, there are holes drilled out specifically correct size for a red Solo cup. So he could put the cups in and pour. You can check 158, 221,
328.
that 328 was Wynn's boat. They all have it because it's a critical aspect to this whole thing.
That's reducing weight.
No, there was more weight because we had liquid in those cups. But to your point, if you're willing, if somebody's willing to go below and sit in the center of the boat, it doesn't make a difference. But it makes a huge difference when the wind picks up and you start getting heeled. Right. Because the boat, let's be honest about this boat. It's a pig.
It's a tugboat.
I mean, it's not the most technically efficient boat out there. And when that thing starts coming up off its lines, it starts going sideways. So the more you can keep it flat, the more effective the foils, and it makes a huge difference. Because people come up to us, how do you point so high? I'm telling you, we don't point any higher than anybody else. We have the weight on the rail, and if you notice, we have the weight on the rail. Legs are out, not in. Now, I'm not suggesting that everybody has to sail the way we sail, because people sail for different reasons. But if you want to get the optimum out of the boat, that's what you have to do. You have to keep that boat flat. And then, so the weight is one aspect, but then trimming the sails is the other. You got to trim the sails to keep the boat flat. And We really don't move the leads much on the Genoa. I mean, if it gets up to 15, we may pull them back, one hole in our track. It's not a big adjustment. But it is critical to keep it flat. Any other questions about what we've gone over so far?
You set the forestay at a specified length?
Is it 27.1 or whatever?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the story.
That's what it is. But like I said, if we're getting up into the 15 range, we may shorten it 3/4 of an inch. And why 3/4 of an inch? Because that's all the play we have. People think that this stuff there's some super secret. No, a lot of it is just, it is what it is. I mean, we only have 3 inches of play in fact, where's Keith?
Right here.
Well, Keith put a high lever quick flip thing. So what is our adjustment on this boat? Is it an inch or is 3/4? We have one adjustment.
Yeah, it's about an inch.
Okay, on this boat it's an inch. If the wind's up at 15, we shorten the forestay an inch.
So Doug, when you say flat, what's flat? 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 0 degrees?
No, you're not going to get it that flat.
Okay.
It's all about the pressure on the helm.
It's relative. I mean, just go and look at pictures, and you'll see flat boats, and you'll see boats that aren't flat.
If you're tugging on that tiller,
It's not
you're
flat.
not flat.
Okay.
Oh.
You can see your keel. That's not good.
No, there was a famous picture of Bob Scott from a Bob Scott when he had Banshee out at Grapevine, and Bob's got the boat's heeled up, and I swear to you, the bottom of his tiller, the bottom of his rudder, is just about out of the water. That's not fast. So
Hey, he can hear my give a piece. He can buy me.
yeah,
Main only.
that is. I'll say it again and again and again. The most critical thing that I think about this boat is keeping it flat.
Flat is fast.
Flat is fast. And going downwind, I mean, we've been talking about upwind. I would say this upwind and then there's downwind. I would say downwind is probably the area that I see for greatest improvement of everybody. Because you turn that weather offset mark and you take a big exhale and people just kind of settle in. When you think about it, how many shifts did you have upwind in that beat? 5, 6? How many times did you guys on average jibe downwind? 2, 3, maybe? Okay, you've missed at least 3 shifts.
Okay.
You've got to be as aggressive downwind as you are upwind. And again, keeping the boat flat and even heeling it to weather makes a huge difference. Because you're going downwind and the guy in front is looking back and he said, okay, there's a puff coming in. He should be calling puffs where the lanes are, where the boat traffic is, how to maneuver. And you're lining yourself up for a puff. And I would say the majority of boats are heeled slightly to weather. So that puff hits and you're heeled, the wind's back here, you're slightly heeled to weather. The puff hits, what happens? Boat accelerates and rounds up because of the shape of the hull in the water. That's just
Science.
physics. It's what happens. Okay, so now what happens? Helmsman pulls on the rudder, on the tiller, to get the bow down. Well, that's a big break. Okay, so now you've sailed off course, you pulled on the brake, and now you've put the bow down. What is so much better is if you're sailing with slight weather heel, the puff hits. So now what happens? Physics, the boat carves down. So now you're making great VMG. And the helmsman doesn't have to put the brake on. Just you let it run, and as you get down into being dead downwind, the boat will flatten out, and then he can make a slight correction to bring it back up. Huge gains on those situations where you're hit by a big puff going downwind, and you're to weather, heeled to weather. What happens versus being heeled to leeward? Leeward first. If you're heeled to leeward, you round up. If you're heeled to weather, you'll round down. Huge difference. Huge difference. That and the fact that you probably missed 3 or 4 shifts downwind it's a huge area to concentrate on and make gains.
To get your best VMGs going downwind, what angles at say 10 knots are you going to be sailing?
By the lee.
Okay, right straight at it.
Hal and his team at the Nationals set a pretty square course. We typically will come around the offset mark, do a jibe set, and we'll do it in one leg, unless there's something different that goes on. But we sail it so deep that we're by the lee a good part of the, and then of course it depends on the water. I mean, Justin is a great driver, and he'll ride a wave, even if it's a small wave.
Yeah.
He'll ride it down.
No, I've sailed a lot on other boats, a lot of little larger boats, and jam sailing, and we always used to sail right straight towards it, and not doing the angles. But I came up a little last year in Florida, and we got people going off all over the place. I'm trying to figure it out. And say,
I don't think boat-wise there's any gain. Now tactically, there's a whole host of questions. You may have to come up to keep clear air. You might see a puff coming in from one side or the other, or there might be a streak you need to get through. I mean, that's different.
right.
But as far as if you're in 8 knots of breeze and I'm out there by myself, we're sailing
Okay.
dead down. And now it starts lighting up, you got to come up a little, keep the boat moving, because you have to keep that boat moving in downwind or upwind. Upwind, 5 to 6, we're going to start being off the spreader. 2, 4, and at the low end, we may be, if it's 4 knots of breeze, we may be 6 inches off the spreader, which forces them to keep the bow down and going. You gotta keep the boat moving. And likewise, the flip side, downwind, we do come up to keep the boat moving.
Hey, don't give it all away now.
This stuff you can read anywhere. I mean, this is not new, guys.
We still have to do it.
The problem is, and it comes down to, everybody does it. Just some people do it more.
Yeah, consistently.
A little more and a little more, and we're nowhere near what some people are. I mean, I race with some people that it's, every second is so intense that you wonder why you're doing it. Yeah, you wonder why.
What's your weight distribution downwind?
Forward. I'm not a big fan of this putting the guy all the way up in the bow pulpit. I think you're digging the bow. Have the helmsman listen.
Okay.
What does it sound like going off the stern?
Is it coming off clean?
Yep. Is it coming off clean or isn't it? Because as the wind picks up, the weight comes back. What is constant is how it's coming off the stern.
Okay.
If you have, I usually stand just forward of the mast on the little raised cabin top.
Inside the sheets.
Inside the sheets. couple reasons. One being weight distribution, but it's also the highest point of the boat. And constantly looking back for puffs and traffic.
You're looking after.
My eyes are back. And as I tell Keith, if he turns his head around, nothing back there he needs to worry about.
Shut up and steer.
Shut up. Yep, exactly. So, but going downwind, typically moving the helmsman forward.
Tiller extension at
Yep.
best, and
Yep.
just get everyone front of the cabin and
Yep.
man in front of the
We're
mast.
if we're going 3, Mr. Story will be right at the companionway or standing in the companionway.
Okay. Helmsman on windward.
Justin likes to drive from leeward.
Okay.
He
Okay.
that's just where he likes
Okay.
to drive. Do you drive leeward or windward? What, downwind?
He don't want to tell us.
We'll find out Monday.
Yeah. We'll watch you on
All the
that.
secrets will be revealed by Monday.
It depends on the breeze, but in light air, I'm the guy who's balancing the boat.
Okay.
Mr. Story would be in the center, Justin would be where he is,
And you're moving.
and I'm moving. If I see a puff coming, I'm moving to windward to get that windward heel, so you get the dig. If it's lightening it up, I'm coming, just shifting back into the center.
Okay.
I can drive the boat with the heel downwind with the heel of the boat. So that's less brake that he has to be putting on back here. So that's what's going on.
Makes sense.
But what if the kids like to ride at the bow going downwind?
Like I said,
That's where it's the most fun.
Reasons to be out here.
We saw dolphins at one of the nationals. It was awesome. Are there dolphins here, Ron?
No.
No? Okay.
And I've had flying fish hit me in the face.
Am I going to push my brother off now?
There's a whole range of reasons to be out here, and hopefully everybody has found their lane to enjoy it. And the lane doesn't have to be the same for everybody.
We're taking the lane towards an alligator if we see one, just so you know, because I've never seen a real one.
An alligator.
I'm looking for one.
That's
Y'all
possible.
put a GoPro camera in the back of the boat years ago. More anything, they don't even talk to each other. Everybody knows their assignment, what they do, and they just do it.
Yeah, but there again, I give that to Win. He knows exactly how much to pour each of us. Because it on a few occasions it has gotten out of hand on our boat, and we've had disagreements. But for the most part, that's a huge aspect that I think has changed over the years too. Sailing with the same crew, day in, day out for years, makes a huge difference for everybody, as far as knowing what to expect from each crew member, and basically knowing what's going to happen, and things don't have to be said. It makes it's tough to train people during a race, but we've all done that. You got to train people somehow, and there's nothing like putting them under fire to do it. So, but those crews that have been together and have experienced the full gamut of what happens in a race, it makes a difference.
Being the recipient of one of these videos from the Bucky Boat with Doug Thome and Justin and everybody, if you'll watch that video more than once, even though there's no sound, you can see that they know without talking to each other what's expected and what they need to do. Like I say, watch that video more than once, and you will see that Doug is looking ahead and behind for puffs and what's going on. And even though you don't hear it, he's calling a shot, and Justin hears that and knows, hey, this puff is going to knock us, or it's going to lift us, it's going to do this. And like I say, when Wynn was down below, you could tell that he knows, hey, I want to be on the weather side of the boat, I want to be on the leeward side of the boat. It's watch that video more than once, and you will get more out of it, even though there's no voice stuff.
Yeah, so let me back up to this question for me about which way I drive. What we do is we drive up to windward, get the boat speed up, and take it back down and ride that out. So we're constantly working it up and down,
Yes.
all the way down.
That's what Jake does.
Yeah.
Not radical.
No, we're not.
No,
We're
no,
not
I
sailing.
know.
We're not sailing to lure. You know,
True.
we're just trying to maximize the speed.
Yes.
Yeah. And he's usually the one telling me what to do.
That's what's
I
that.
just do
You
what he
can
says.
tell if you watch the videos,
Yeah.
even though you don't hear it, he is telling them, hey, look for one, this is gonna be a knot, this is gonna be a,
Even though these boats are pigs, they all go the same speed, basically. I mean,
suppose.
Same pig.
well, no, seriously, I don't think our boat speed is that much better than any of the top 10 boats. I mean, let's just start there. It's being flat, number one, staying in the breeze, number two, hitting a shift, number three. I mean, but all those things, very important. I mean, if you can keep that boat flat, you're not going sideways. If you're going sideways, you're giving up real estate in a hurry. If you can hit the shifts, you gain so much. What was the third one? Flat. Boat speed's the same. So I forget what the third what was.
In the wind.
I'm sorry? Oh, staying in velocity. There are times, especially in like conditions like this, you know, forget about which direction the wind's coming from. It doesn't matter. Just get to the wind. So whoever can connect the dots is going to be in the front. Don't worry, oh, is that a header or is it a lift? Just get to it. Figure out how you're going to get from dot A to dot B to dot C to dot D. And downwind, again, a lot of people just sit back and point. But, you know, if 4 lanes up, there's a little puff, we're working up to that puff. Staying in the best velocity as long as you can.
Do you ever go down from base when it gets super light?
No. We used to, but we've gotten lazy. I mean, we may go down one turn, but it hurts you more if you get caught loose and the wind comes up.
Doug, talking about the forestay and the weather helm, you don't want the boat to be sailing with no helm at all, no weather helm at all, right? Or what? Or do you have any basis of that?
Well, you're not going to, I don't think you'll find that in this boat, but good luck.
I know, but in other words, I don't, and say headed to that direction. You don't want.
Oh, no, I would head in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have some weather helm.
You don't have to. It's very difficult. It's very difficult as a helmsman if you don't have weather helm. It's, you know, it's easier to steer if you have a little bit of weather helm.
Right.
When it gets really soft and funky, you find out who the good helmsmen are.
You can drift.
Because
Drift in the right direction.
because it just that slightest bit of weather helm is a break. I mean, you're dragging.
Oh yeah, there. Yeah.
So you're always trying to get to helm neutral, but you're not gonna. It's not gonna happen.
Okay, so now once say you've gone out, and you've been running at 15 to 20, and you shorten your forestay to say the next day, you start back with your normal forestay length.
Well, it may
Unless you
be
anticipate high
even
winds.
between races we may change.
Okay,
I
right.
mean,
But you will bring it back, in other words.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
definitely. When we
Right.
come back to the dock, we'll go back to base.
Uh-huh.
Our base setup, just so we're at base
Right.
for the next day.
Right.
But between races, you know, we might change our settings. I mean, hey, Mark?
So it's not really a good idea to have a whole roll of electrical tape around your forestay.
No.
Can't change it that fast.
Well, that's why Keith went to a high level thing that we can quickly change between our two settings, and that's it. I mean, we found that you don't have to, you know, half twist here, half round, you know.
2 times.
We just have two settings on the forestay. Any other questions?
How about
Can we
the
talk
backstay?
backstay?
Backstay. Our backstay is set up with a gross and a fine adjustment. So when we let the gross off and let the fine adjustment off, the backstay locks in at max forward.
Right.
So we don't have to worry about is the mast going too far forward downwind.
It's going to what you have it set.
Yeah. There's a knot. There are multiple knots that come into play that it limits the forward throw of the mast.
You're
And
pretty much going maximum forward on your downwind.
we go max forward.
Okay.
And you know what's the max forward?
Well, sure.
Yes, what is the max forward?
You decide how close you want to come to a broken mast.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All I can tell you is the further forward, the faster you'll be, until it breaks.
To a point.
Until it breaks.
So what are the afloads?
Hey, gonna swap mast?
Well, I mean that depends how far forward you want your mast to go. I'm saying ours are.
Forward just barely off the gauge.
We feel comfortable at 4 to just barely off the gauge in light air, in 6 to 8, and then we put a turn on for every 2 knots of breeze.
You say a turn, a full turn.
If you've got
2 halves.
Yeah,
well,
360 degree turn.
Yeah.
if you have the double posts, 1 full turn,
Okay.
360 degrees for every 2 knots of breeze.
But only in between races.
But only in between races. You can't make any adjustment during a race per class rules.
Do you make any adjustments with backstay upwind?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Depending on the breeze.
depending on the breeze. I mean, like in this stuff, we'll have very little backstay on to start, and if we
Which
feel
is sagging your forestay, bringing the power forward.
big sag in the forestay, like I said, will be at least 2-3 inches off the spreader.
Okay.
And we'll match
Trying to bring the power forward in the headset.
and we'll match our jib halyard tension to the forestay.
Okay.
I'm not a big believer in these scallops. I like a nice smooth luff, and if he's got sag in it, I'll ease the forestay. I'll ease the halyard to keep a nice smooth curve.
Okay.
And as the wind picks up and he's pulling on backstay, I'm pulling on halyard tension.
Okay.
And till we get to max
Sure.
full back, and then we're kissing the spreader.
Okay. So 1.5 inches or so off the spreader.
No, we're kissing the spreader.
Going even tighter. Okay.
And if you go into a lull, you got to ease the sheet, and otherwise you're going to get this bend in your Genoa
Yeah, it's gonna
on the spreader.
It's gonna fold around the spreader.
So whoever's
Even at maximum, you're trying to keep your forestay at about 10.
No. That 10 has no bearing.
Okay, that's your initial setting.
That's just an initial setting to make all the other settings.
Okay, fair enough.
It's
No,
consistency.
When it starts picking up, you're hard on the backstay as hard as you can pull it
Gotcha.
Okay.
to take the sag out. You're just trying to take the sag out of the forestay
Forestay. Okay.
as the wind picks up.
Gotcha.
What about bang?
We in breeze we'll vang sheet, and he won't play. Forget the traveler. You know,
Put it in the middle or
no, just let it run down to the bottom
in high wind?
in high wind.
To keep it flat. Yeah, that
Yep.
makes sense. Okay.
And we'll vang sheet hard, and then
Okay.
he only has to play the main sheet,
Right.
which brings it in and out.
Always in his hand. I've seen it.
Yep. You know, he's got that.
That's what we
You know, we've been racing with Keith now. I've been, you know, a couple years, and it's Keith, puff coming in, ease the main, because you want to ease it before the puff gets there. You don't want to.
Have your sails set for the wind that hits you.
Well, I mean, you've got to be ahead of the curve. You know, if you're going along like this and the puff hits and you go like this, then you ease the main and you come back. Is that good, or is this better? Puff coming in, puff on. You know,
Accelerate.
you're going forward. So you got to stay ahead of what's going to happen. So you've got to have somebody on the rail calling the puffs, counting them down, you know, when they're going to hit. And the helmsman's got the main sheet, or the traveler in lighter air, and that constant in and out, in and out. And likewise, the Genoa. If the velocity changes so much that sheet needs to be eased, you need to ease that sheet and keep that Genoa from kissing to an inch, except in the very light air where you need the power, and then we go into the sag mode.
One last question for me. Your out haul.
Hard on tight most of the time. Light air will ease it, but we don't worry about easing it downwind.
But he's getting pretty tight, getting pretty hard all the time.
No. We'll set the out haul for the breeze,
Yeah, for the wind speed.
whatever the wind speed is.
Right.
But we don't play the out haul other than a wind change.
Okay.
We're not easing it going downwind. You know, we have a limited brain power, and it's just one more thing for us to forget.
Gotcha. Appreciate it.
And forget to
And you know, it just doesn't make that big a difference.
So-
If that's the difference in your race, you're pretty good.
It's a close race.
Yeah. You know, if you've got it down to where that's the difference, more power to you.
Checking all the boxes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so one
that
thing,
one's way down there.
Okay.
one thing you haven't mentioned. Okay, now I'm the rookie here. I gotcha. I'm good with that. I'm understanding depowering is the whole reason to tighten the rig, right? You want less power in the sails. When and how do you play with the downhaul or the Cunningham? Because I know some of the bigger boats have a Cunningham even on the jib, right?
Well, we don't have a Cunningham and a jib. We have a setup where we adjust the halyard. You know,
Okay.
I don't know. You know, maybe there's some difference if you're tightening from the top versus tightening, you know, but it's all the same to me.
Okay.
Again, what we try and do is match the jib halyard tension, the actual luff of the sail, with the curvature
Of
of
the forestay.
forestay. So if you're in light air and you have a big sag in your forestay, you've got to make sure your halyard tension is loose enough. You don't want to be distorting that sag.
Gotcha.
And then of course, as he's pulling on backstay, pulling on jib halyard, and our boats are set up where we have
Okay.
halyard fine-tune adjustment.
Okay.
Where a lot of boats do have some mechanism that hooks into the tack for a more like a Cunningham.
Do you ever
Either way,
do you do the same thing with the main or just the head sail?
we don't play that as much.
Okay.
The driving force on this boat is the Genoa. Of course, you know, if it's 5 knots difference, we're making a change, but we're not making minute little changes. Trying to pull the draft forward. If the wind picks up, we put more main Cunningham on, take the wrinkles out. But we play that less than we play the Genoa.
Okay.
Another thing that through the years that I've seen is people don't sail with enough leech tension on the main. Yeah, they've got that top telltale flying, and it looks good. But what the leech of the main does is gives you your pointing ability. And I would say our top telltale is darting, in behind the sail at least 50%, maybe more. I mean, we sail with a very hard main leech upwind.
Bang? Doing that with bang?
Either or. I mean, if it's heavy wind, yes, it's bang. But if it's not, it's with the main sheet.
Okay.
And traveler up.
Okay.
I mean, we'll sail traveler all the way up in some conditions to try and get the boom centered and get that leech telltale just
Driving with the back third.
diving behind the leech of the main. When you combine that with keeping the boat flat, you track really well.
You don't point higher, you track.
You don't
very well.
you don't point higher. You just track very well.
Lower. That's usually my problem.
That's good.
As soon as that boat rounds up, if you get hit by a puff, and it rounds up, you're going sideways, and then it takes a while for you to get everything, the flow reattached to the keel, and it's just very inefficient. So that's why you've got to, not only set the boat up right, but you've got to have the communication from the front of the boat to the helmsman, letting him know what's going to happen, and the helmsman has to know that if he hears 5, 4, 3, 2, he's got to have that sheet in his hand, and he starts easing at 1, not 0, because you don't want the boat to go like this and then this. You want the boat just to keep the boat at a constant heel, and the flatter that angle is, the better. But more importantly, keep it at a constant heel. You just don't want this and the flow being disturbed over
what the keel's doing.
over the keel.
Yeah.
And the rudder as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you keep harping, so to speak, on keeping the boat flat. Is it better to flog the main to keep it flat? If you're in a little bit heavier stuff versus keeping it powered in. I mean, it sounds like there's a give and take there, which is.
Don't flog the main. You want to keep the leech.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a huge bubble in the front part, but keep the leech flying.
Okay.
That.
Well, I said when
I hear you say flog the main, I hear the leech going like this.
Yeah.
You don't want that. You want that leech.
There may be more heel. You're better off keeping.
Well, put a bigger bubble in the front end of the main.
Okay.
But
I know some of these settings are.
If you don't have
three people in weight versus 2 people, so I'm looking for that fine line to keeping the boat here versus heeling when we've only got 2 on the boat.
Yeah, I mean, I keep talking, and they're competing issues, right?
Right.
Heel versus, which is more important? You need both.
Okay.
You got to have drive before you can even slide.
Right.
So you have to have your main. You've got to have the leech flying.
Okay.
If you don't have the leech flying,
in that kind of circumstance, are we better off keeping the main in but letting the head sail out to flatten the boat?
Yeah.
Okay.
I go ahead and ease the main a little bit, and just drive down.
Okay.
And move. If you're at that point, you're moving the cars back at least a hole, maybe 2. We don't sail in where I be beyond 2. If it's beyond 2, I'm not going out.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Traveler.
Yeah.
What conditions is it where?
Well, what's the purpose of the traveler? The purpose of the traveler is to get that main on center line and have your leech flying with a darting telltale. That's what you're aiming for. Now, how you do it with a combination of traveler position, leech tension, and vang. Those, I mean, everybody can do it differently, but that's what you're aiming for, is getting that leech of that sail over the boom on center line. So typically in light air, we'll have traveler all the way up, and he'll work it from, if he feels overpowered, drop the traveler a little bit. And then, if you're over 12, don't even worry about the traveler.
Just keep him midline?
No, let it run.
Don't lock it anywhere and
Just let it run. Well, I take that back. You may want to set your lines so it can't hit your stops, because I've been on boats where that hits the stop, breaks the stop, and the next thing you know, you don't have a traveler. So just, you could set it where it will, the traveler line will engage right before it hits the end stop. Yeah. Okay. That comes into play. But if we're in up to probably 8, traveler all the way up, and you're probably not, you probably don't have any vang on, per se. I mean, you may have just snug the vang to keep the boom from doing this, but then as the wind gets up over 10, start putting vang on, and if it's still, he can't get the boat flat, then he's starting to drop the traveler.
Okay.
Justin told me, he said, when the wind picks up, he said, the first thing I do is work my travel. And if that doesn't work, then I go to my backstay. If that doesn't work, then I go to the main. So it's kind of a sequence, that you figure out.
Dumping the backstay in heavier air if you can't control it.
On.
Okay, pull it on. Gotcha.
First thing you do is drop your traveler. If that doesn't work, then you tighten your backstay.
Tighten up more.
And then the last resort stuff, the main.
Okay.
Like he said, you don't want that main just clogged.
But typically all this is happening because, the backstay is addressing your forestay tension and your sag, which gives you your pointing ability.
Right.
So that's what that's doing. The traveler is keeping your boom on center line. So just remember what the goal is to have the power, enough power in the sail. So that's the decision, sag or no sag, as far as your backstay, and you're trying to keep that as firm as the wind conditions will allow.
Gotcha.
You want it to be as firm as possible.
Right.
So that's one thing. Then the other thing is the position of the main. You want the boom center line with that leech over the boom.
As taut as you can get it over.
And then if you go into depowering, we're using the vang to depower, and it allows him not to have to worry about anything but the sheet. The leech doesn't change if you're vang sheeting.
Yeah, you can't go through that.
So I have a dumb rookie question. Ready? The little lines, they're on the leech of the sail, right down the backside of
Yep.
no, not the telltales, the actual line that's
the
stitched.
leech line.
Leech lines.
That's inside.
That's inside of the main or the jib, and then
Correct.
the bottom of the jib.
Yep, you have a
What do
foot
those do? Like, I don't even know when to pull them. I'm like, hey, it's flapping. I'm pulling on more, and then they get curly, and so.
Well, yeah. Curly's bad
Okay.
because
It cups, right?
you're distorting the airflow.
Okay.
But flapping's bad too.
Okay.
Because you're distorting the airflow. So when it starts flapping, you start pulling it
on a little bit.
and then it keeps flapping, and you pull it on more, and eventually you start cupping the sail, and that's bad too. So
Okay.
it's
So you just play with it to get it as little flappy and as little cuppy as possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? If you guys have any questions at any time during the week, just grab me. Be happy to answer them or take a look at your boat. You know, we're out here to everybody have fun and try and improve as we go.
Doug for all of his help over the years and everything he's done for the association. Thank you very much.
I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed meeting everybody. And, everybody has something that gets tucked away in here. Trust me.